Welcome again, everyone, to Couples Talk. I'm here again with my lovely husband, Joshua, and we have a wonderful topic for you this evening. We're going to discuss something that we're all experiencing, something that we use every day: social media. So, we're going to talk about the impact of social media in marriages. And you may be wondering, what are they going to say? I'm sure they're going to tell us a bunch of negatives. Sure, maybe, but there are also some positives. So, we're going to highlight some negatives of social media and some positives of social media. And you can see which one affects your relationship and how best you can adjust and change.
For me, Charlene, why not let's start a discussion in terms of what is social media
Well,
anyway,
that's a good idea. Yeah.
right? So, I mean, social media, one of the most popular platform, of course, is Facebook, but it doesn't stop there. These are platforms that are used to communicate with each other, to share. In some cases, if it's Instagram, it might be photos. You get things like Snapchat, YouTube. So all of these platforms were intended for us to interact with each other. What you find is that more and more we're coming to recognize that a lot of persons are seeing some negative effects for it as a personal, but we want to focus a little bit more in terms of how can this have certain effects on married couples as well as your marriage in general. And as Charlene said, it's not all negative, but we do want to share some of this. And we're because we're all affected, we all see it. You go out to dinner, you're with your friends, you're at home, we all use it, and there's a lot of positive. I mean, part of our business model looks to help people with how to leverage their business on social media. So there's a lot of people that make money from social media. I'm so impressed with um, the the young child that makes a lot of money on YouTube, that all these
Oh, Ryan.
Ryan, I mean, so there are people that makes a living off of social media and so forth. So there are a lot of possibilities, and that's the great thing. There are a lot of people that have gotten discovered for just being a part of social media. So in the same way, we want to tap into this and see how does it impact marriage in general. So we will start with some of the negative because we already know that's part of it, and we want to be able to end on a positive note. So one of the first thing we recognize as it relates to the impact of social media, and what's the first one, Charlotte?
Social media can create unrealistic expectations. So, what does that mean? We go on Facebook, we see a wife or husband posting photos, events of their spouses, photos of them together, and then you're sitting there scrolling through thinking, well, my spouse doesn't post pictures of me. Why not? What's wrong with me? And then an argument starts and you start to fight. Maybe your spouse is not into social media, or maybe they're on social media, but they're not really posting as much. So it bothers you a lot. And then you start to think something is wrong with my relationship because they're posting. But what we fail to realize is that some of these people might be just creating some form of illusion. And then you're sucked into this illusion and it starts to affect you and even impact your relationship.
And if you think about it, there you would see someone posting that, hey, today's my spouse's birthday, so I went out and bought them a BMW. And that could possibly be the case, and in some cases it's not. They might have rented a vehicle and created a beautiful skit only to let you believe that this was real life. It's amazing how far persons will go to create an illusion of success and feel, and you take that and you impose it upon yourself and tell yourself that that which I have, or the things that my spouse is doing for me, is not good enough. And you start expecting your spouse to do the things you're seeing individual on social media are doing, when some of it may not even be true. But even if it is, it's very unhealthy for you to compare what someone else is doing and then somehow take that as a way in how you should be expected the same thing from your spouse. So it can create unrealistic expectations for something that was good all the time. The funny thing about it, that you were okay with this all the time until you went on social media and you started seeing maybe a classmate, maybe a friend, maybe somebody you don't know, and they're constantly talking about, hey, my spouse did this, my spouse is doing this, and it's, this is what we do every day. We take tours and we go to trips and we go to dinner, and you tell yourself somehow that which was good all the time now have a problem. So we know something is there. The second thing is that it could lead to jealousy and excessive suspicious behavior. What does that mean for you, Charlie?
I might be insecure about myself, and I'm concerned about my spouse always on social media, looking at people, looking at events, looking at stuff. So I'm thinking, because I'm so insecure, it has to be that he's indulging in some form of cheating or something is going on, because why is he on social media? I know what's wrong with me. So you start to stalk him on social media to see who he's chatting with, who he's communicating with, because you need to make sure he's not doing anything wrong. And that leads to a bunch of issues in a relationship.
What do you think about spouses have each other's login for their social platform? What would you say is the reason why persons may not do this, or what are some of the positive of having access to each other's social media platforms?
Well, many times we think persons don't share because maybe they have something to hide. And the advantage, I would say, of having each other's password is not so you could stalk each other, but it gives a level of security and comfort knowing that if you trust me enough with this information, it means that maybe everything is okay. So it creates a level of security and comfort for both parties. It doesn't mean that all you have issues and you need to stalk each other. Just works out like it's like having each other's bank card information. I mean, are you really going to steal your spouse's money, or just know that, okay, well, I have it. If something happens, at least I can access it.
So it's a matter of transparency, and you don't have to, and everyone is different, because someone may say, but this is my privacy, and I should be able to have um, an unmonitored conversation with my friends, person that I had in the past. It might be innocent, and you may want to have that. And for everyone, it's different. And I'm not telling you that you must have your spouse's login for your social media, but it's a healthy. It would be great if you could get to that point where that isn't an issue,
Where there's no secret. There's no
right?
secret, pure transparency.
I mean, it's interesting that a lot of the problems we have, and you see it with telephone.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having access to your spouse's phone because, again, you're saying this is my privacy, and this person shouldn't have this. But if you find yourself, and I always test this thing, if I find myself deleting a chat history or so forth, I start checking myself and recognizing, why am I concerned that my spouse might misinterpret it? Not that you're doing something wrong, but the mere fact that I'm sensing that I want to delete this message, or I don't want my spouse to see this message, is a good indication that this is probably not the right conversation I should be having. And even if it happened, it's not to say, it's an indictment, but you may need to check yourself and to see what is happening there. All right. The third one is,
It can lead to body image issues. I think this might more apply to women at times, even though I'm sure men experience it as well, where, we mightn't feel so comfortable with the way we look. And when you go on social media, you see all these edited, filtered images of models looking so hot and so sexy with their wonderful shape. Lord, was it Fashion Nova? Have mercy, Lord. When you go on Fashion Nova, Instagram and Facebook, you sure know you're going to have body issues. Trust me, when you look at their pictures, one time something is wrong with you, because the way those models look, there's no way in hell I could ever look like that. And trust me, that gives you some jibbies, and you're just looking at these photos. I mean, they look good, but I mean, I know for some person, they would take that on so much, they might start to develop additional issues because of it, because they're comparing themselves to them and thinking, I could never look like this. And because I can never look like this, it affects even the sexual relationship, because now you're thinking, my spouse doesn't love me because of the way I look. When really and truly, a lot of men couldn't be bothered enough. I've heard that over time and time again. We spend so much time focusing on how we look, and men just appreciate us for who we are. I mean, we're not talking about being lazy and don't care about your health. I'm saying that the perfect body shape is only in our head and maybe what social media tries to force down our throats. But many times, the man who truly loves you is not even worried about those flaws, as you want to call it.
It's there's a phrase I always say: your perception is your reality. If you spend enough time looking and feeding your brain telling you that you're not good enough, after a while you're going to start believing that you're not good enough. You will start take this attitude, this feeling, and you will start implanting it in your spouse. You will start becoming
Mm-hmm.
more sensitive to the things they say when they may not even have been thinking it, but you start connecting the dots and say the reason why he's not complimenting me or he didn't notice is because he thinks I'm fat. It's because he thinks I'm not attractive anymore. He don't touch me the way. So even before there is an issue, your mind starts creating an
Mm-hmm.
issue, and again you start feeling less attractive about yourself. And as Charlene said, it starts affecting even your intimacy because you don't feel attractive. It's very hard for you to get excited in yourself when you don't feel attractive. And especially if it's on both sides, because the reality is it happens from the man's side as well. If the man is constantly looking at all these beautiful photos on social media and you start
Beautiful photos of what, men or women?
beautiful photos of other women,
Mm-hmm.
and you now start looking at your spouse who don't seem to match up to the perception you're seeing on Facebook. So in the context, you now start look at your spouse and don't feel as attractive to your spouse because you've spent so much time looking at fake bodies that's not necessarily real, but you have a real woman next to you and you don't see her beauty only until many times it's too late. So it happens on both sides. So it's a matter of knowing and filtering even your channel and understanding, because the Facebook is an algorithm. The more time you spend on a certain type of content, you will start seeing more of those content
Mm-hmm.
coming up on your timeline. The more you like and follow certain type of pages, that's the type of information that's going to be coming up on your timeline. And so, but let's look at some of the positive, because this is not all negative. We all there's a lot of benefits to being on social media for your marriage, and let's just touch on, in the same way we touched on some negative, let's touch on some positive.
It can keep you connected to your partner when you're not in the same place. Yeah, like, should we go way back or we should just stay with?
I mean, sure. I mean, for each of us is different. And even before, let's assume you are in the phase where you are exploring to find that right person, and you may not be able to find that person where you are. It's amazing how you could meet persons that really in sync with you on social media. Charlene and I met each other on social media, and the platform at that time was High Five. That was, probably about 13 years
No,
ago.
no, no. Stop calling those kind of numbers. Yeah, all
The
right, okay.
reality, the reality is, and that's from a courting perspective. But what if you're already married and you have to, your spouse have to take a long trip for work or something of that sort, and you're not in the same place? Social media is a great way in how you could connect. I mean, there's other way of communicating now. There's WhatsApp and things like that. But
But
sometimes
isn't WhatsApp social media?
well, not in the same context. It's more of a communication tool, but for some people, they're very comfortable. It may be Facebook Messenger. You might be online. You may be doing different things. You could play games together. You could play puzzles together. They're just different.
Mm.
There's just different fun things you could do that is very light-hearted that you could do together on social media. You saw something that was very inspiring, that reminded you of your spouse, that you could share with them. You could tag them in the post and really validate them, because no matter how much we try, social media is here to stay. In the past, it used to be that you waited until you had a family, what do you call, a school reunion,
Yeah.
when you met up, and then is when you shared stories about what did I do, what am I doing now, what did you do, how is your family, and so forth. Unfortunately, because of social media, every day is a school reunion. You're seeing your friends and your colleagues, and everyone is trying to position themselves in a way that is favorable or so forth. And no matter what, it affects you. So it's really good when your spouse could validate you online in different ways and so forth, especially if you spend a lot of time there. We just have to be real. It happens. So it's
But
a positive impact.
we can actually bring it closer to home. What about when you're in work and I'm somewhere else, and then your mind run on me?
Yeah, I mean, and that's happening during the day. That you could really connect with each other, have fun and so forth on social media, tag each other points that is really interesting, and then you could, when you get together, use the time now to connect with each other. That's an excellent time to put aside the social media and spend time with each other. And that's the biggest challenge I think that we have. It's amazing how, and we've been guilty of it. Sometimes we're at the dinner table, we're having dinner, and we're both on our phones, and it sometimes it shocks you that we're right across from each other, but we're both on social media. And a lot of us is guilty of it. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, it happens. It's we at dinner and you look around and everyone is kind of on their phone at dinner trying to engage with persons, but you have a human being right next to each other. And that's something that, we really just need to be very careful of, and recognizing that the special things in life is the simple mundane conversation that you have over dinner, just catching up what's happened during your day and so forth. To just put aside the phone. I think one of the things we had started to try to do is to say not to have our phone for dinner. It hasn't always worked, so I think we need to do a better job at that. And that's something you could really try to do. Maybe you could set just a mutual arrangement to say, hey, when we're at the table having dinner together, this is our no social media time. It might sound like a small thing, but it could be so impactful. Even if you spend half an hour at the dinner table or breakfast or so forth, just put aside the phone for that period of time, so you could really engage with each other and have meaningful conversation.
You gain useful insights from relationship experts and personal development bloggers. So that's a good one. When you go on social media, you're interested in learning more about relationship, how to improve your relationship, and any one of the platform, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whichever one of the platforms, and you could meet someone, a blogger, a vlogger, video blogger, and all those persons who will give you insights. Like us. You come on Facebook and YouTube, and you watch our blogs, and then you're like, yeah, I can get some insight on my relationship. So there are positive things you can gain from using social media.
And one of the key here is being intentional about liking and following positive content. It's so that there is a healthy mixture of your timeline where these things on a regular basis connects on your timeline, so that it reminds you, it points you in the right direction. It just gives you a positive insight that this is something that I would like to be doing more. And it's amazing how you are reminded of simple things that you just didn't think of, or someone might have said, hey, here is 7 text message you should be sending to your spouse. And you might be saying, but that's so scripted. But no, if you haven't been doing it, I am telling you, even if somebody reminds you to send your wife or your husband this text message, and you just customize it and send it, I am telling you, he's going to appreciate it, she's going to appreciate it. Instead of you just saying, nah, that's corny, that's not going to work. So it definitely plays a part. And thank you, Jenny. There, it's really true. Setting these rules and guidelines are necessary. Social media in itself, as positive as it is, it's a $1 billion industry. The owners hire scientists to study and to update the algorithm to have us spending more time there, and that's how they make money. That's how
Social media is spooky. I'm looking on YouTube. I'm barely looking on you. Sorry, not even YouTube. Just Google. You might just see something flash across the screen on Google, and when you go on Facebook, it's just popping up in your face. It's
Yeah,
like, but I didn't even
it's
search for it.
it's part of the algorithm. That's how you make money.
Aye.
People think that social media is really just for us to people to connect. It's no longer that. It's about understanding who you are, what you do, so that I could sell your information to the best. The advertisers are going to pay for it, and that's the commercial world we live in. The platform is free, but what you sell is your privacy, and we got to be very mindful to use it in a positive way. It's kind of going to the extreme to say don't use Facebook at all, cut off. But there's people, you know what is ironic? The people that make the platform don't spend that much time on the platform.
They don't need to anymore.
Zuckerberg don't spend all his time on Facebook. He's just not, he knows that it's not healthy for me. He's reading books and learning and investing and
What are we
walking with,
doing?
and we're the one that's scrolling through a timeline, spending hours, going through, and we're not
I
talking
thought
to
you
each
were
other.
to encourage people who are positive.
But I'm saying, I mean, there are, and so there are some positive. As I said, if it wasn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation now, right? So there are positive, but we're trying to say there must be some moderation. There must be guidelines. We must recognize the priority is human interaction.
Mhm.
That's why even on our first one said, and I was particular to say, when we're not in the same place, it's a great opportunity to connect when you're not there. But I would much prefer that you take an opportunity to FaceTime each other, do a video call, and have a meaningful, at least be able to see the persons. But the last one we want to share, and this one I love about social media. It's a time capsule of memorable and special moments. There are times I'm just going through my timeline, and there is a photo of Charlene and I from a cruise, not a cruise, we've never been on a cruise,
No, we've never
but
been on
a
a cruise.
vacation somewhere, a photo we took that was in one of the areas that, and it just like,
Kissing.
yeah, just have a nostalgic feeling like, oh my God, this was such a fun experience. I remember when we were here, and I mean, long gone are the days that you got to dust off an album and try to figure out and try to go through. Facebook is, and many of the other platforms, Instagram and things like that, is just this digital capsule of memories that could just bring you back to the good times that you spent together, and that's a good opportunity for you to share it with your spouse and say, hey, this just came up in my timeline, did you remember? And it's an opportunity for you to just reconnect on those things and even plan maybe your next getaway. It might just inspire you to just say, hey, can we get a babysitter for the kids this weekend, and let's just go and just do something, and it might just inspire you to do something fun with each other more than anything else.
It might actually brighten up your day. You might be having a down day, and then you see the photo and it reminds you of a good experience. And it kind of gives you that little, fluttering feeling in your heart, thinking, yeah, we had some good times together. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just wanted to touch a little bit on this. It's something that we all use every day. And it's not realistic for us to just say cut it off. There's a lot of positive, but there are some negatives. And if there's anything that we want to encourage you more to do, is to spend time with each other. Try to limit being on social media when you're with each other. There are some positive things that we could do there, but if there's anything I would say, is for us to be intentional about spending time with each other. Set certain guidelines for yourself. Is it when we're having dinner, when we're having breakfast, that we're not gonna be able to, are you going to put it aside a certain time in the evening, so like just before you go to bed you could unwind, you could talk about a day, you could give, so you got to be able to set some guidelines and to set some, and let it be mutual. One person is saying it and then the other person is doing something else. It's not going to work. We got to be fair with each other. Let's agree that these are the things that we're going to do because we want to make sure that our relationship is the most paramount thing. Anything for you, Charlene, before we close?
I just want to remind those who are listening, in terms of the negative aspects, learn to appreciate yourself. When you focus on loving yourself, that those negatives won't really have much of an impact on you, and you won't be too concerned about what you see others do on social media. And you'll be able to focus on the positive, where you could connect with each other with your spouse, be reminded of the memorable experiences. And then you could also, if you need insight to go, you visit a vlogger, Vivid Resolutions, and you learn some tips about how to help enhance and put a little kick in your marriage.
All right. So again, if you is there anything here you like, please remember to share it with a friend, share it with a colleague, somebody that might want to know more about just how to really bring back that fire in your relationship. If you haven't followed us on YouTube, please remember to subscribe. Click that notification bell so when we go live, that you will be notified. If you're on our Facebook page, just remember to like the page so that you will get notified when we go live as well. Thank you for joining us, and you will see us in our next live. We normally go live on Thursdays, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But again, even if you missed it, you could always go to our timeline and watch our previous videos. Have a good one until we see each other again.
Okay, good night, everyone.